Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football Friday edition of Football at 4 here on 97.3 ESPN. The Eagles are 9 days away from their first game of the season, and the Fluid 53 continues. With all that and more right now with Andrew Dicecco from InsideTheBirds.com at Dicecco NFL on Twitter, right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew, how you doing this Friday?
Hey, doing well, thanks.
So before we get to anything else, this is completely off the rails here, but I was having a random conversation in the last segment because I was talking about the fact that the Eagles didn't put Andre Chichère on the practice squad and on the main roster. And to me, I thought it was in part because of the fact that maybe they had to guarantee him a certain amount of money, or they were trying to outbid a team. That's why they put him there instead of on the practice squad. And it made me turn to, I remember back a few years ago when the Eagles had to put Nate Sudfeld on the roster to keep him from being picked off of their practice squad. And I said that might have been one of the dumbest decisions they ever made, because I think there can be an argument made, Andrew, that Nate Sudfeld is the worst Eagles backup quarterback to ever see game action in the last 21 years.
Oh, man. Mike McMahon would be the correct answer.
But see, at least Mike McMahon was interesting. Like, he ran around, and at least you had a little, like, juice. Like, Nate Sudfeld would just stand there and get smashed by blitzers.
I mean, they're both in that bottom tier. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, but I mean, yeah, when you look at when you sort of quantify the backup quarterbacks in Philadelphia, they're definitely two of the probably bottom tier, I would think.
It's just amazing, right? They're like, we've literally had so many backups play on this team. I mean, A.J. Feely was winning games. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Kevin Cobb had a nice little stretch. I mean, we had Mark Sanchez and Matt Barkley come through here, Coy Detmer, and it's like, and then you have Nate Sudfeld. Like, you're looking around and you're like, this is the guy you had to keep?
Yeah, and there was a time where they really liked Nate Sudfeld, had big plans for him. They were grooming him, and obviously his development never really took the next step, and he sort of remained stagnant, and you saw that in the games. He shined in the preseason. Then when the lights came on in the regular season, he looked shell-shocked and like a fourth string quarterback.
All right, so let's get to the guy I mentioned a little bit earlier, aside from the random quarterback conversation. Obviously, is another guy from the Colts organization who has direct familiarity with Jonathan Gannon. Tell us about the new defensive back in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Sasha Ray is the defensive back that they acquired off waivers yesterday, and he went right to the 53-man roster. Anyone who's claimed off waivers goes to the active roster. He'll be wearing number 21 for the Eagles, and a very versatile player, can play nickel, can play safety, can play outside corner. In fact, when Julian Blackman, the free safety for the Colts, when he went down this summer and had to miss some time, it was Sasha Ray that replaced him. So he's very versatile. I see him more as a backup safety here in Philadelphia. They have a lot of nickel guys. It makes sense because I personally, before the waiver claim, I was talking to Jeff, and I really thought that it was going to be Craig James that would get the promotion between now and the opener because of his special teams prowess. They really are lacking in that area, and he sort of fills the void there. He's a terrific gunner. But Sasha is a guy that I really can see playing gunner in that game. Do I think he's ever going to, I should say in the early part of the season, is he going to contribute on the defensive end? Probably not. And if he is, that's a bad sign. Normally when you get a player from another team at this stage of the season, it really takes them all season to really find their footing. You remember DeAndre Hall was a safety that they claimed, and that took him quite a bit to sort of find his way with the Eagles. It wasn't really until the following summer that he was able to get up to speed. But I do think that there's a familiarity there with Jonathan Gannon, and he's very versatile, and he played a ton of snaps on special teams. So that's an area that I think he's going to make an immediate contribution.
The other thing, Andrew, is that we don't have a full injury report yet with the Eagles. We have a lot of conjecture. I mean, I've seen pictures and video of Rodney McLeod at practices with a big knee brace on, but there's no guarantee he's going to play week 1. There's a possibility that he may not even play week 1. So your starters may be Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps, so you're going to need some depth at the safety position.
Yeah, and Wallace is also banged up as well. So it makes a lot of sense to me for them to promote Elijah Riley from the practice squad for week 1. I thought that was going to be the case regardless. Going in with just 4 safeties in week 1 is not ideal. And he, just like Sasha Ray, provides a lot of special teams prowess. And that's really what you need when you're looking at the bottom part of the roster, especially when you're looking at who to activate and who to deactivate for that game. I think that Elijah Riley would make a lot of sense. He's familiar with the system, and it wouldn't be a significant transition. So, I don't know what the status is for Rodney McLeod. We're going to find out. But even still, like you said, Kevon Wallace is still banged up. So you really only have, 2, maybe 3 safeties you can count on for week 1. So I would look for Elijah Riley to potentially be one of the call-ups prior to that game.
Yeah, I'm assuming that it would be Andrew, and this is just obviously my conjecture just based on what we know about the Eagles. I'm assuming the call-ups are going to be like Elijah Riley, Jordan Howard, and maybe one of the offensive linemen because Driscoll's on the reserve injured list for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, Stu Opeta makes a lot of sense there. Experience, a player that is highly coveted. I mean, there's players that when he was on the Eagles practice squad, they were looking to poach him. He has some potential, some upside, made some strides. So, he's started games for the Eagles, so he makes sense as a call-up. And possibly Jordan Howard, you don't really want to go into the game with just 3 running backs, 2 of them really being change-up options that aren't really meant to tote the rock between the tackles. I think Jordan Howard we know what he can do. He's largely a one-dimensional running back, but I think that you're going to need that short yardage runner and goal line situation. So, and he makes a lot of sense as being one of those call-ups as well. So I agree with you there.
Andrew Dicecco joining us here at Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. You can give him a follow on Twitter at @Dicecco NFL. Check out all of his work over at InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew, I want to get your perspective on a couple other moves that were made yesterday, because obviously when you and I first talked on Tuesday, that was when the first 53-man roster initially came out, and now there's been changes since then. We have on the reserve injured list, we knew Tyree Jackson was going to go on there, but Driscoll and Scott definitely hurt a little bit on the depth front, and I'm a little surprised who's not on there. It's not Davion Taylor. It's not Rodney McLeod. So what does that say to you about where even Kevon Wallace is, those 3 guys are in their progress and recovery?
That they're a little bit closer to returning to the field than anticipated. I don't think that the big surprise to me was Jack Driscoll. I did not see that one coming. I'll be the first to admit that. But I think Josiah Scott was someone who I thought had a chance to be placed on the injured reserve list with the hamstring that you remember he took a knee in that preseason game. He was sort of on the field. You could tell that was, he was hampered by that. And, but I mean, he's a nickel only player. He can play outside, but he's predominantly a nickel player. But going into this, with 4 corners, I thought that they had to make a move there. It was pretty obvious. So I thought it would be Craig James, but they claimed Sasha Ray from there. And I think they're sort of finding their way the first couple of weeks here. They do a lot of roster shuffling, and you have to do some manipulations and things like that. But yeah, that Jack Driscoll pec injury was very surprising to me.
Yeah, especially considering I would argue that he is the best backup offensive lineman they have. So without him, to me, it changes a lot of things. If somebody goes down, maybe not even a significant injury. If you go into a game like on the first game versus the Falcons, Andrew, and I'm just throwing out a scenario. I brought this up yesterday to the audience. What's a situation where Lane Johnson, they have a run play, and he collides with somebody, he gets his helmet knocked off. Well, we know what happens. You have to leave the field for at least one play, right? And then what if they say, hey, Lane, we want to do a concussion check on you just in case. Well, now Lane misses 2 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays, and he comes back 5 plays later. He's fine. But who's playing right tackle those 5 plays if Driscoll isn't out there? So that's where my concern comes in.
Yeah, and that's fair because Brett Toth is a left tackle. We saw him play some left guard in the final preseason game. another name to potentially keep an eye on if it isn't Sua Opeta is Coyote Awashika, the rookie free agent guard, played left tackle and right tackle at Buffalo. Was really working at guard primarily this summer with the Eagles, but he does have that experience. Obviously, he's never played that in an NFL game before, but yeah, when you're looking at in those terms, you get really thin there. Jack Driscoll he's played tackle in the games, he's played guard. He's a very versatile player, but as far as the two guys that would probably take the reins should Lane Johnson have to miss a snap or two or an extended period of time, I think it would be probably Coyote Awashika, or they're going to see if Brett Toth can play right tackle.
Definitely going to be interesting to see. Again, we don't wish any ill will on anybody in the game, but obviously you have to be prepared in case something happens.
Andre Dillard's also done it before, but not very effectively. So that's another name that he would probably get the first look, but it didn't work too well for him the first time that he tried.
Yeah, well, Andre Dillard also said he didn't think he could do it very well. He kind of warned everybody before it happened. So you almost wonder if the Eagles go to Andre and ask him before the game, if this happens, are you sure you can do it? Yes or no, might decide it as well.
Yeah, they're going to have to know that. They're going to have an understanding with Andre before that, because you have to call up whoever you're going to call up and have them ready should that transpire. They need to be ready to get plugged in. It can't be like a touch and go situation.
Andrew, you're one of the most studious people I know when it comes to the college game. So let the audience know about the three guys they added to the practice squad. Nick Eubanks, Keyshawn Johnson, completely different spelling from the guy who's with ESPN now, and then Marvin Wilson. I believe Johnson went to, Fresno State as a wide receiver, then Marvin Wilson at Florida State, correct?
Yeah, Marvin Wilson at one point was a very highly touted recruit, was at Florida State, pretty much a two-gapper, has a lot of upside. He commanded a lot of money as an undrafted free agent, was one of the more highly touted undrafted free agents. So I thought that was a good value signing. Obviously, their Eagles, their top two defensive tackles in Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave they're getting a little bit longer in the tooth. There's not a whole lot behind Milton Williams. Marlon Tuipulotu is obviously there as well, but you really want to start to build a foundation of having younger guys ready to assume that role in the coming years. So I think that's a good value signing. Have him develop on the practice squad and hopefully make that leap next season. Keyshawn Johnson is a wide receiver from Fresno State, as you outlined. Very savvy route runner. More of a possession guy, not a burner. Really soft hands. Doesn't play much special teams. He only played 11 career snaps on special teams over the past 2 seasons with the Cardinals. So if he does make the leap to the active roster at some point this season, he's going to be playing some receiver. I don't know that he has the build or the makeup to be able to play special teams, but he's a very fluid route runner. Like I said, soft hands, knows how to get open. I think he's 6'1", so he does have a little bit of size, which the Eagles don't have right now. And he played in 18 games in 5 starts. So that's a player that I really liked coming out of Fresno State. He was a 6th-round pick of the Arizona Cardinals in 2019. And Nick Eubanks was a tight end from Michigan who I consider to be more of an H-back type of player. He's a very similar mold to Jack Stoll, 6'4", 245, really athletic. Doesn't have natural hands. I think Jack Stoll's hands are a little bit better, but he has good speed, super athletic, not a good blocker. He needs a lot of work as a blocker before he's able to make the jump to the active roster and contribute on game days. But he's an intriguing player, and I think that if you get him with tight end coach Jason Michael to sort of refine some of those traits that he has and really hone in on his blocking, I think he can make a roster push probably next summer. So those are some pretty good signings that they added to the practice squad.
Andrew Dicecco joining us here, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. At A, Dicecco NFL covers the Eagles and the NFL draft in college football for InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew, I know you watch you're one of the few people I know who watches more college football than I do. So I want to throw out to you a couple of the games this weekend and let the audience know maybe a prospect or a couple of players that you're looking at in those games, okay?
Okay.
So tonight on 97.3 ESPN at 6 o'clock, we are airing North Carolina at Virginia Tech. A lot of people know about Sam Howell, the quarterback, but who else should people keep an eye on in that game?
Sam Howell is the player that I'm going to be looking at, just in case that for some reason it doesn't, Jalen Hurts, it doesn't necessarily work out with him. He's a player that I would look at, and I mean, it's one of those games between Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was a very competitive team last season. I'm also looking at Josh Downs, the wide receiver. That's another player that I think has a lot of Sunday potential and has shown signs of really taking that next step. I think he's going to be a breakout player this season. So that's one of the Tar Heels that I'll be looking for, and really one of the standout players of that game, in my opinion.
Tomorrow at 12 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN, we will have number 19 Penn State and number 12 Wisconsin. What do you think about that game?
Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver. You know, the Eagles need a big body, go up and get it type of guy. They don't necessarily have that. They thought they did in Travis Fulgham. They thought they did in J-Jaw. I think Dotson's a physical contested catch specialist that can win on all three levels and be a wide receiver one, would ideally complement someone like a Devontae Smith and a Jalen Reagor and give Jalen Hurts a red zone weapon for the future. I really like his upside, so that's a player that I would look at.
Tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN, we will be airing number 1 Alabama versus number 14 Miami. We know about Alabama, the guys who are in the league now, but who are guys who are going to be coming out next year? And also, I know Miami's got some studs as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting game. Miami's always a really competitive. They're always a very competitive program. I'm really a big Derek King fan. Brian Robinson, the running back from Alabama. Alabama continuously churns out next-level prospects. I think he could be a good complement to Miles Sanders. John Mechie, the wide receiver, is another player that I really like. And then I think when you look at the cornerback situation, Josh Jobe is a player I also like. Great size, good ball skills, a little bit raw. We would like to see him become a little bit more technically sound, but I like his skill set and his upside. So, again, Alabama is going to be a powerhouse this year and have many enticing prospects to monitor throughout the season.
The college football game of the weekend for many is number 5 Georgia versus number 3 Clemson. We'll have that tomorrow night at 7:30 here on 97.3 ESPN. Who are some guys to look out for in that game?
Georgia, I'm going to be looking at Zamir White, the running back, and be looking at some of the corners. So, like, I really like Darian Kendrick. He's a transfer. And who am I forgetting? They have Quay Walker, senior. I don't know, man. They have a ton of prospects every season, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
And then final game for you Sunday night right here on 97.3 ESPN. We will have Notre Dame versus Florida State. By the way, this is one of the few games, big profile games of the weekend that is not neutral site. A lot of the games we mentioned are either a neutral site or they're at a location. You know, UNC is going to Blacksburg. Well, Notre Dame has to go down to Tallahassee.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of levels the playing field here, so we're going to have to see how that goes. A player that I really like for Florida State was a player who transferred from Kansas. Kansas is not really a offensive juggernaut by any means, but they have a receiver named Andrew Parchment, who I think he's a grad transfer. I really like his ability. He never really got a chance to blossom in Kansas, but he always showed signs of what he could really be should it be a competent offense. Jermaine Johnson, another grad transfer to the defensive end, is a player to watch. And Akeem Dent, the free safety for Florida State as well.
Give him a follow on Twitter for more Eagles and college football NFL draft analysis. Dicecco NFL. And, of course, check out all of his work over at InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew, enjoy the college football this weekend, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
Thanks, man. Sounds good.